Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, January 2nd, 2025, episode 110 of the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Happy New Year to you and yours. And let's get started with the tip-off topics because I'm going to try and break down 6 things instead of 5 today. Leading off with all hail to the king. LeBron James still dominating the NBA at the age of 40, just turned out a couple of days ago. And think about the oldest active NBA player in his accolades. You could see it there, but if you're listening, first in minutes played, 4-time NBA champion, 4-time MVP, 4-time Finals MVP, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 6-time All-Defense, 20-time All-Star. You get it. You got it. What a career for LeBron James, still trying to bring it day in and day out for a Lakers team that has been really up and down this year. We'll see with the trade of Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton and getting rid of D'Angelo Russell if it can reinvigorate LeBron James a little bit as this Lakers team kind of finds itself trying to make headway in the Western Conference. Something tells me we'll be talking about the James family a little bit more at the end of this segment. Now on to the injury front where Ja Morant, listen, folks, you guys know how I feel about Ja. I've said it. If Ja could, keep the guns and the violence and all the other stuff off the floor, he's such a phenomenal talent. So it hurts me to see that he's hurt again. Out with an AC joint sprain, grade 1 at the right shoulder. That's a shooting shoulder. That's why it's significant. He's week to week. So this is an injury for a team in the Memphis Grizzlies that's really played really good basketball. This is a team that I said before the year I had big plans on. I like them to go over their win total. I also thought that they were going to win their division. And it sets up a pretty interesting take right now for a team right now that's sitting second in the Western Conference, a half game ahead of the Houston Rockets. Imagine that. Memphis sitting second in the Western Conference at 23-11. Let's see when Ja can work his way back. People like Desmond Bane will have to step up. Obviously, Zach Edey is back. He's one of the leaders in the clubhouse for Rookie of the Year. You look at the play of Jalen Wells has been fantastic. You could obviously talk about the year that Jaren Jackson Jr. has had. So other guys are going to have to step up here for the Memphis Grizzlies as they try and stay in that top echelon, top 4 in the Western Conference, sitting at second place so far. Let's move on to another injury, and this one of Jaden Ivey. When the Pistons brought in Bickerstaff, I really consider this to be a meh move, right? But I got to remember with JB, it's not about the regular season. It's the playoffs. So a Pistons team right now, folks, that's sitting in 9th place. I know they're under 500, but they're only 2 games out of the loss column for being in 7th. And Jaden Ivey was having the best season of his career so far. Jaden Ivey that was scoring about 17.6 points per game. Remember, he had a little bit of running with Monty Williams coming off the bench last year, but this has been his best year so far. He is out basically for the rest of the year, I would say, after breaking his leg. And really a horrific, and I know people are getting after Cole Anthony. Folks, it was a bang-bang play. You got to give Cole Anthony props for diving on a loose ball. Yeah, was it a little bit reckless? Maybe. But at the end of the day, for people to go after Cole Anthony and think this is a dirty play, you don't know ball. He was going for a loose ball. Maybe he shouldn't have went in the way he went in shoulder first. But Jaden Ivey that was getting you 17.6 points per game. Jaden Ivey was shooting 46% from the floor, a career high. Jaden Ivey that was up to 41% from 3, a career high. Jaden Ivey that was giving you 4.1 rebounds per game, a career high, right? He really was turning it on. And that young backcourt of Ivy and Cade Cunningham was something that this is what the Detroit Pistons thought they were getting when they drafted Jaden Ivey in the first round 3 seasons ago. So it's an interesting spot here for this team. So when you start to look at Detroit, right, and you look at this franchise, where are we going? Obviously, it's got to be the play of Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, I saw last night getting really into it on a big defensive stop by Stewart versus Jalen Suggs. Cade Cunningham getting you about 24 points per game, almost 10 assists, 7 rebounds. He's been great. Honestly, a big transition no one has talked about is the play of Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley giving you about 16.2 points per game this season. Malik Beasley that obviously was with Milwaukee last year, 16.2 points per game. High for Malik Beasley since the 2021 season. So you got to get a step-up spot out of Malik Beasley. Tobias Harris, he's Tobias Harris. So we'll see what he could bring you day in, day out. Tim Hardaway Jr. giving you about 10 points per game. I think I want to see a little bit more out of Jalen Durham. He's only at 9.6 points per game, 9.2 rebounds. He should be a double-double guy. So we'll see what transpires here with Detroit. But I must say, J.B. Bickerstaff's done a really good job with this team. Let's see if he can keep it going. Let's head back to the Western Conference here. And it was an interesting game that took place a couple of days ago between Minnesota and Oklahoma City. And at the end of the day, Anthony Edwards basically said of SGA that this guy is the MVP and that he is flat out unguardable. That was after a game that I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 40-point performance in that game on New Year's Eve that took place where he really went off and really 15 to 23 from the floor. Folks, simply put, I've been saying this for a while. I always thought that Kyrie was the best player one-on-one in the league. Folks, it may be SGA. I know, and if you look at the odds, I think SGA is pulled even with the Joker to win the MVP. If Oklahoma City continues to run away with the Western Conference, there is no doubt in my mind that this guy should be the MVP in the league, and this is a major reason. And I'm sorry if I'm not mistaken. I think Matt said he's the favorite right now to win the MVP. I think it was at plus 110 earlier today with the Joker at plus 115. So to me, yes, it is justified. He is the best player. May not be the best player in the league right now, but you have to think about the fact of, he is the most dominant offensive player in regards to what he has done. SGA MVP, and I do think Ant is right. Well, a couple other things really quick. Number one, Brandon Ingram being traded. This is not news. Every side of me reported this. I've been saying this. I said it last year in the summer. Matt can even attest to it. We can pull up the clip where I said that they should trade Brandon Ingram to the Cavs for Jared Allen. Nothing new. This is nothing new here. This is nothing to report. Simply put, New Orleans has to blow it up. And New Orleans is in the same spot that took place last year with Minnesota with Cat and Rudy. Now it's with Zion and B.I. You got to trade the guy that's going to give you more back. Zion's never healthy. That's why I think you have to look at Brandon Ingram being removed, plus the fact that they can't agree to a contract extension. I expect Brandon Ingram to be removed. Let's see if it happens before the deadline. Last thing, Bryce James, LeBron's son, is verbally committed to play for Tommy Lloyd and the University of Arizona. Bryce James is a 3-star prospect. Listen, here we go again. Is Bryce good enough? Is he better than Bronny? Is it the James name? Is he going to Arizona? It's a Nike school. Not shocking. Wait, LeBron James, does he now go to play for Phoenix because his son's going to be in University of Arizona? I don't know if that really happens, but we'll talk about that another time. Coming up after the commercial break, we'll get into our award tour. We'll look at the prop market for a couple of teams to make the playoffs. We'll look at the Golden State Warriors, my thoughts on them. The Phoenix Suns, my thoughts on them. And then we'll end up talking about what Indiana Hoosiers make the field of 68. This is the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 102. We'll be back after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Let me make sure I say this correctly. Episode 110, and it's January 2nd. Excuse my little mistake there before the commercial break. Coach was really excited to talk about Bryce James, as you can tell. Let's get into our award tour where I go through some kind of futures odds that I see in NBA or in college basketball. We're going to kind of slow walk our way through this. The first team I want to look at is for the futures market in the NBA to make the playoffs, and that's the Golden State Warriors. Golden State Warriors are minus 188 as of this morning on FanDuel to make the playoffs, as a plus 152 to miss out. And just so people understand this, when we talk about make the playoffs, this is the final 8. This is not play-in tournament, right? This is actually to make the final 8 teams to make it in the Western Conference. And I'm going to go on a record here and do something even that my producer, Matty George, isn't agreeing with. I'm going to take the Golden State not to make the playoffs at plus 152. A Golden State Warriors team, folks, let's be honest, started out the year hot at 8-2. You can look at, obviously, the play of Stephen Curry and what he has done, even though he had one of the weirdest nights ever when I do think Steph did not make a field goal. Steph's still getting you 22 points per game. It's been the elevation of Jonathan Kuminga, who has done better coming off the bench at 16.8. Andrew Wiggins with I would say a bounce-back season after a terrible 23-24 season. But then you start looking at Buddy Hield, what he's off the bench, right? D'Anthony Melton, 10.3 points per game, right? Dennis Schroeder comes in a trade. But to me, folks, and then the other part is that I think it's going to make people be like, Coach, wait, why are you doing this? The Golden State Warriors have, according to Tankathon, have the 5th easiest schedule the 5th easiest schedule for the rest of the season. So why would all of those things would I say they don't make it? Number one is, even though Trayce Jackson-Davis has been really good, I'm worried about their interior play guarding, right? I think Draymond Green is on his last legs, and God only knows the next time he's going to blow up on someone. Then you have to look at the Western Conference overall, folks. And I want people to understand this, okay? It's very important. This is why I say this. In the Western Conference, folks, there is within a 3-game loss column, meaning 3 games. 13 losses is Denver, right? Denver with 13. Dallas with 14. Clippers with 14. Lakers with 14. Minnesota with 15. 16 with San Antonio and Phoenix. And then Golden State, with 16. 17 with Phoenix. What I'm getting at is this. If they get into the play-in and they're 9-10, who are they? There's no way they're going to win 2 games in a row against 2 of those teams. And I'll be honest with you, I fully expect Phoenix to pass them. And I still believe in Sacramento because I think now the pressure's on that community after Coach basically ripped them for the last, 2 weeks since the Mike Brown fiasco. So to me, I just can't get behind the team. It's also 3-7 in their last 10, even though they started the season hot. I know it's plus money, but I'm going to take a chance on it. I'm going to go ahead and say the Golden State Warriors do not make the playoffs at plus 152. So if they don't get in, who does? That's Phoenix. And Phoenix is minus 138 to get in. Their schedule is markedly tougher than that of Golden State. They have the 12th toughest schedule according to Tankathon the rest of the way. But simply put, folks, I am banking on the fact of I think that they're going to find a way because they got to stay healthy, right? This team's played 32 games. Kevin Durant has missed 10. Bradley Beal has missed 10. Devin Booker has missed 5. Nurkic gets suspended for starting a fight, right? I still, at the end of this day, think they're going to get there. And here's the thing. I love the fact that they went and they got Tyus Jones at the point. At 12.6 points per game, 6.3 assists, he is a pass-first lead guard. He allows other people to kind of get and facilitate and get going, but then you still have a secondary ball handler like Devin Booker getting you 6.5 assists as well, right? Bradley Beal's giving you 3 assists. Kevin Durant's giving you 4. They have enough guys that could share the ball here. And then if you think about some of the rookies that they've gotten, Iguodaro's done a really good job, even though he's giving you about 4 points per game. I thought that Ryan Dunn has been a really good addition because they need a 3-and-D guy. As much as I'm fading Golden State, I do believe that Phoenix at minus 138 will make the NBA playoffs. Speaking of making a postseason, let's talk about the postseason tournament and NCAA. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I took Villanova at 3-1 to make the NCAA tournament. I'm going to go at it again. And I'm not doing it because one of my best friends on this show or in this network is my sometimes co-host, Scotty Farrell. I'm taking Indiana to make the NCAA tournament at plus 210. When you think about Malik Reneau getting you 15 points per game and 6.3 rebounds, when you talk about Mabako getting you 13.5 points per game, you talk about Rice getting you 11.5, there are 2 reasons why you're going to be concerned about can they make the tournament. Number one, they can't shoot it worth a damn, and it's 31% from 3. And Omar Ballo has not been what they expected to get out of when they brought him in from Arizona. But simply put, folks, when you look at the Big Ten, if they get 7 bids, who are getting the 7, right? Who are getting it? Illinois, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State, UCLA, Oregon. Like, there's a chance that they're going to be able to get themselves in. I think Mike Woodson figures it out because if Mike Woodson doesn't make the tournament, Mike Woodson's getting fired. Coming up after this commercial break, we'll get into our scouting report. We'll break down some big games in the NBA, including the New York Knicks heading out to take on Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm going to end talking about the Knicks. Stop robbing Jalen Brunson. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast. We'll be back after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, and let's get into our scouting report where I break down some of the best games coming up in the NBA and college basketball. Today, we're going to focus on a trio of NBA games tipping off Friday night, led off with the big matchup on NBA TV between Jalen Brunson and New York Knicks heading south to take on SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder. A New York Knicks team sitting at 23-10, playing as good at basketball as anybody in the Eastern Conference, versus a team in Oklahoma City that's playing better than anyone in the West. So when you look at a couple of things to look at is both teams over-unders are about 223.5. Knicks are 223.7, Oklahoma City 223.4. I think they're going to hang that right around that number. If they do, folks, I think this game actually will go over. You look at the star power and the shot creativity and shot making. Even though they have good defenders on both sides, I do think this game goes over that number of about 223.5. Also, I think if you're the Knicks, you're going to force SJ to be a passer. You're going to put a little bit more length with Bridges and sometimes OG Anunoby to guard him. So I think maybe look under SGA points. And on the flip side, Karl-Anthony Towns just coming off a 30-20 game with the Knicks. Look for his 3-point prop to go over. Isaiah Hartenstein, sometimes in that drop coverage, doesn't like to come out and play ball screens. I would look at Cat to go over his 3-point prop. Second game has the Boston Celtics also heading south to take on their old coach, Ime Udoka, and the Houston Rockets. When you look at this team, Houston, one of the best defensive teams in the NBA at 221.4 is their over-under. But also look at the fact that they are top 10 in defending a three-point line versus a Boston Celtics team that bombs away. A Boston Celtics team, folks, that's been wildly inconsistent, to be honest with you, with their play here. And to me, you know, I would have no problem with you saying taking the Rockets minus the points. I think it's going to be an extremely short line, to be honest with you. You also got to realize that Boston is going to be on a second leg of a back-to-back traveling from Minnesota to Houston. I know it's same time zone, but still, it's a back-to-back. So I'm looking at the under here and the Houston Rockets to go ahead and get the cover. Third game, Cleveland, Dallas. Listen, we got to stop this nonsense about is Cleveland a fluke. They are not a fluke. What a job by Kenny Atkinson that he's done this year. Obviously, this team leading the NBA with the best record, and obviously Kenny Atkinson right now the leader in the clubhouse for NBA Coach of the Year. So when you look at this, you have to look at the play's got to be Cleveland, right? When you really think about it, when you look at the fact of how well they've played, the fact that they're on a 3-game winning streak on the road, and their wins are at Denver, at Golden State, and at the Lakers, folks, all three of them by double digits. And you look at Dallas, I know they're coming home, but they lost their last 2 games, Portland and Sacramento. I think the players, the Cleveland Cavaliers, to go ahead to get the win and the cover in this big matchup. We'll see what happens. Donovan Mitchell maybe look at his scoring prop. Also, Kyrie looking at his scoring prop knows Isaac Okoro. So you have to look at the fact of, you know, of a lot of scoring here. Isaac Okoro is a game time decision. I'm assuming he's going to be out, but maybe look at Kyrie to go over his points prop as well. Let's get to our buzzer beater, folks, and it's a big one to me. NBA just released their All-Star voting, and right now, the front court of the Eastern Conference makes sense. You have Giannis, Tatum, and you have Cat, right? That makes sense. Banchero's injured, no Jaylen Brown, not Jimmy Butler, and Franz is hurt as well. Embiid hasn't played enough, get it. But when you get to the guards, it's interesting. LaMelo Ball leads it by like 230,000 over Donovan Mitchell, then Lillard, then Brunson, and then Trey. Simply put, LaMelo, it's a popularity contest. I get it. He's one of the more popular players in the league. But you can't tell me that Jalen Brunson doesn't deserve to be on that team, getting you about 25 points per game, about 8 or 9 assists for a New York Knicks team that's playing as well as anybody in the NBA. That backcourt needs to be Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. The problem is LaMelo's so far gone, I don't know if he ever gets caught. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 110 for January 2nd. For all things sports gambling, download that SportsGrid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. Next podcast will take place on Monday. We'll get into the best news in college basketball and the NBA, our awards tour, and our scouting report. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny, who always does a great job with the graphics. Remember, folks, it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Good night.